Have you ever thought about what warfare and chess have in common? I mean, on the surface, they couldn't be more different, right? One is this brutal, chaotic, real-world clash, and the other is this silent, strategic game played on a board. But it turns out they share a deep, fundamental secret about winning and losing.
You see this all throughout military history. Armies fighting and dying, sacrificing thousands of soldiers for what looks like a completely worthless piece of land. A barren hill, no water, no resources. It makes you stop and ask, why? Why would you pay that kind of horrific price for just a patch of dirt?
Well, the answer is actually pretty simple, but it is incredibly powerful. In any kind of conflict, the high ground is everything. It's a massive advantage, a kind of force multiplier that can completely change the game. And today, we're going to unpack how this single idea connects everything from a Roman siege to a final checkmate.
Okay, so to really get this, let's look at 3 classic military moments. Each one shows us a different way that elevation, the high ground, completely dictates the rules of the fight. We're going to look at a siege, a fast-moving battle, and a brutal, grinding stalemate.
So first up is this idea we can call the cost inversion principle. And it's simple. When you hold the high ground, you make your enemy pay, big time, just to get to you. The most famous example of this has to be the ancient fortress of Masada. You had this group of Jewish defenders holding a fortress on a plateau nearly half a kilometer high, and the Roman army, the most powerful army in the world, had to spend 9 months, building this gigantic ramp just to get to the walls.
And you can really see the massive scale of their effort here. They didn't just build a ramp, they built an entire wall around the whole mountain to make sure no one could get in or out. Think about all that time, all that labor, all those resources. The Romans had to spend all of that just to cancel out the natural advantage of height. That, right there, is cost inversion.
Okay, so that's about resources, but what about time? That brings us to our second idea, positional tempo. This is all about speed, about recognizing that the high ground is valuable, but often you only have a small window to grab it. You have to get there first. And there is no better story for this than the Battle of Gettysburg.
And this is where you really see what tempo means. It's a tale of 2 generals. For the Union, you have General Warren. He takes one look at a hill called Little Round Top, realizes it's the key to the entire Union line, and rushes his soldiers up there just moments before the Confederates arrive. On the other side, Confederate General Ewell had a chance to take another key hill, Cemetery Hill, but he paused, he hesitated, and that hesitation might have cost the Confederacy the entire battle. Warren's speed won the day. Ewell's delay lost it.
All right, and for our final military paradigm, things get pretty dark. This is what happens when the strategic value of a location, the position, becomes so important that it's seen as being worth more than the lives of the soldiers fighting for it. This is the positional versus material value paradox. And to see it in action, we have to look at the Korean War.
Just look at that number, 3,700. That's the number of UN casualties for one battle, for one ridge. Why? These hills, Heartbreak Ridge, Porkchop Hill, they were worthless piles of rock and mud. But their position gave whoever held them a huge advantage. They could see everything, control roads. Their positional value was so high that armies were willing to trade thousands of lives, the material, just to control that spot on the map.
Okay, so we've seen how this works on a physical battlefield, right? With hills and soldiers and cannons. But now we're going to make a jump. What if I told you these exact same principles, cost, tempo, and value, were being fought over on a completely different kind of battlefield, one made of 64 squares?
And this is where it all just clicks into place. It's not that the principles are just similar. No, they are functionally identical. A fortress like Masada that denies your enemy a path, that's a fortified piece in chess. A command post on a hill that sees the whole battlefield, that's your king controlling the center of the board. Let's break down these analogies. So remember Masada, that fortress on a cliff that basically forced the Romans down one single predictable attack ramp? Well, in chess, we have the exact same thing. It's called an outpost. This is when you plant one of your pieces, usually a knight, deep into your opponent's side of the board and protect it with a pawn. All of a sudden, that knight is a permanent thorn in their side. It's a fortress. It can't be easily removed, and it chokes off all their best moves. It's your own little Masada.
And what about General Warren on Little Round Top, directing the whole battle from his high ground perch? Well, think about the king in a chess endgame. For most of the game, you're hiding your king, keeping it safe. But in the endgame, the king becomes your most powerful piece. You march it right into the center of the board, and from there, it becomes a command post. It attacks, it defends, it supports your pawns. A centralized king
is the general on the hill.
And finally, you've got the final assault. In war, it's that moment the battering ram finally smashes through the castle wall, and everything just collapses for the defender. In chess, that moment has a name, the 7th rank invasion. It's when you get a powerful piece, like a rook, all the way to the second-to-last row on your opponent's side. From there, you just create absolute chaos. You're behind their lines, attacking from the rear, trapping their king. It's the chess equivalent of the Romans finally pouring through the walls of Masada. It's game over.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? I mean, we've jumped from ancient Israel to the American Civil War to a chessboard. But the amazing thing is it's all connected by one single, incredibly powerful idea. There's this old saying in chess, and it goes, "Tactics flow from a superior position." And that just says it all, doesn't it? A Roman general could have said the exact same thing. All the clever attacks, all the brilliant combinations, they're only possible after you've secured the better position. The position has to come first.
And that brings us to what we can call the high ground theorem. And it's this: positional advantage. Doesn't matter if it's a real hill or just a key square on a board. It acts like a force multiplier. It makes you stronger, it limits your opponent's options, and it lets you be the one to decide how the fight is going to be fought.
And this isn't just theory. It's a really practical 3-step plan. Step 1, always prioritize position. Fight for the influential ground before you do anything else. Step 2, use that superior position to box in your opponent, to take away their choices. And then, step 3, once they're tied down, you convert that positional dominance into the final, winning attack.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. This whole idea, it doesn't just apply to war in chess. Think about it. A business deal, a political debate, even just a simple argument. Where's the high ground in those situations? What's the key point, the key position that you need to secure first to control the outcome? Because once you start looking for it, you realize the battle for the high ground is being fought absolutely everywhere.